As all of you are aware, on Thursday, July 24th, 2025, Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Bollea, passed away from cardiac arrest at the age of 71. Since then, every single major media outlet has covered it. WWE paid tribute to Hulk Hogan this past Friday on SmackDown. Personally, I posted a video in which I paid tribute to Hulk Hogan. I went through his whole career. And on SmackDown, basically half the video is me posting tributes to Hogan because WWE paid tribute. I was talking about his career again, all his accomplishments, what he meant to wrestling. So I'd ask you to please watch both of those videos as those are tributes to Hogan. Here, I'm going to talk more about his legacy. I'm going to tell you how I really felt watching SmackDown. And I didn't want to mention this during the review because I thought WWE did such a fantastic job with that video tribute. I thought that's the best one they've ever produced. And I didn't want to say anything. But this past weekend, I've just seen discourse of how negative it's been towards Hogan. It's not to say every single post on social media is negative. Probably there's been more positive than negative, but it's just so bad. I feel like almost WWE would have done more if that negativity didn't exist. This wasn't enough. I'm sorry. There should have been like 2 weeks of tributes for Hulk Hogan. That's how much he meant to this company. That's how much WWE, the existence of WWE was reliant on him. He built that company. WWE is the host that Hulk Hogan built. And I'm just sad how he went out. I don't like this at all. I hate the discourse. It makes me... It genuinely at first angers me, but now it's just almost making me just sad, knowing that negativity is out there and people fighting with each other. It's a downer. I'm just really upset with how he went out. I just wish it could have been different. And I wanted to make this video just to talk about his legacy. It's going to be my thoughts on it. So we're going to talk about the controversies. We've talked about all the great things he's done in those previous two videos. What he's meant to this business. I went over that. This is going to be talking about more of the perception around him, some of the negativity around him, and some of the controversies. We're going to address everything, and I'm going to give you my opinions on everything. So let's talk about, first, this is kind of not necessarily a controversy by itself, but I've seen discourse online that that someone else could do what he did. He was just the right guy for the right time. He was in the right place at the right time, if you will. And Vince could have replaced him with anybody, and I completely disagree. I know Vince McMahon in interviews has said Dusty Rhodes would have been his second option if Hulk Hogan wasn't available. Love Dusty Rhodes. He had so much charisma. He was great, one of the greatest of all time. And he, as I said, he can talk, he can cut promos, incredible charisma. He didn't have the look. Hulk Hogan was a superhero. That's what made him different. He looked like Hercules, and he looked like a Greek god or a superhero. He was a real-life superhero. His presence was something else, and that's what people looked up to. And Dusty Rhodes obviously did not have that physique. Also, Hogan's personality, what he represented at the time, it just fit so much of Americana because when you look at his body, that's also what we saw in movies at the time. Look at Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, you can talk about steroids, and we'll talk about that, but I mean, that was a huge part of it. And also the fact that he'd win like a superhero. He'd get beat up, it looks like he's going to lose, and he'd make a triumphant comeback and save the day like a comic book. So I don't think I love Dusty and all. I think if Dusty was in that position, he would have been a big star, would have made Vince McMahon a lot of money. I don't think it would have been anywhere near as much as Hulk Hogan. Ric Flair is another one. Rick is great. Rick's one of the greatest of all time. Maybe the best all-round professional wrestler ever. Rick was great at making other people look good. I think that was what he was best at. I don't think he would have been the same had that same impact as Hogan did as a top babyface in WWE, and which is what they were looking for. Flair was a great heel, as much better than a babyface. Flair would make guys look good. I don't think he would have been able to fit into that role that Hogan did. Again, like as I said with Dusty, Flair, yeah, he would have made Vince money. He would have not have been anywhere like what Hogan was in terms of being the top star and making, putting WWE into the mainstream and revolutionizing the wrestling business, making it something that was totally different than what it was before. Sergeant Slaughter is another one. I can see that in terms of the Americana, in terms of the 80s, what it represented. I can see that. I don't think he would have had what Hogan had. I don't believe it would have been the same. Do I think he would have been successful? Again, yes. WWE had top stars. Look at Bruno Sammartino, superstar Billy Graham, although they didn't want to push him. He was in many ways what Hogan was. He was Hogan before Hogan in some ways, people would say. Bob Backlund, yeah, didn't draw as much, but he was their top guy. Jimmy Snuka, so he was a big star too. They've had big names, but Hogan, it was something different because he was their first like national major star. When the company went national, when they did the expansion, and then global. He's a global recognized star. I don't think any of those guys could have done that. Roddy Piper was a huge star, big star. Roddy Piper deserves a lot of credit for the first WrestleMania, along with Hulk Hogan. Hogan, of course, deserves the most because he was the biggest star. But you had Hulk Hogan, you had Mr. T, who was instrumental as well. Roddy Piper, who was the best possible heel. That doesn't work with anyone. If one of those three guys are not there, I don't think it works as well. And we don't know what happens to WWE if WrestleMania isn't as successful as it was. Cyndi Lauper had a lot to do with it as well, but Piper was amazing, man. He did movies. He went into movies before Hogan did. He would have been a big star. I don't think he was Hogan because he did not look like Hulk Hogan. When you look at Hogan, you see the muscles, the 24-inch python's brother, the blonde hair, the tan, the red and yellow, the headband, the Real American song. It's just so much, and the training, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, say your prayers. He fits so much into the culture and pop culture of 1980s America that it's hard for me to see anyone else filling that role. And Piper was great. He was a huge star. I don't think it would have been the same as it wouldn't have been nearly as successful as Hogan. There's one guy also I wanted to mention. There's a couple more, I guess I should say. Randy Savage. Yeah, he was the second biggest star for most of the years in the golden age, especially when Piper was gone for most of the time. It was Hogan was one, Savage was two. He was a huge star. Love Randy Savage. Love the Mega Powers. Don't think would have been the same if he was the top guy. Jake the Snake Roberts, big fan of him too. Don't think it would have been the same success. Ted DiBiase, heel. That's something that's even in question. Kerry Von Erich is the one that's interesting to me. He was a huge star in Texas. He would have been a big star in WWE. And, when he came, it didn't really work out. So when you look at that, but could he have been a huge star as the top guy in WWE if he left his dad's promotion, World Class in Texas? He would have been a big star, and he would have been very mainstream because, he had a great look to him. There's no way he would have handled it. His drug addictions were too much. There's no way he could have done what Hogan did, done all those appearances. He would have self-destructed. Also, it's hard for me to see him having that success. It's hard for me to see anyone else but Hulk Hogan having that kind of success. If you take Hulk Hogan out of the equation, I don't know what WWE is. I don't think they're this globally recognized company worth billions and billions of dollars, and they're part of TKO, and I don't see that as a possibility with any of those other guys other than Hulk Hogan as the top guy. I just don't see it. Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon, you take one of the two out of the equations, I don't see WWE where it's at right now. If you take Vince out, I don't think Hogan he would have been a huge star. He already was a major star, probably the biggest star in wrestling in AWA under Vern Gagne, who deserves a lot of credit for Hogan's success, no doubt. Do I think he would have AWA would have been what WWE was? Absolutely not. So Hogan and Vince, you take one of them out, everything's totally different. Wrestling's totally different. Pop culture is totally different. So we don't know. But those two, yeah, they both of them instrumental. So here's some more controversies, and this is the first major one was when Hulk Hogan won the Arsenio Hall show, and this was during the steroid trial, all the controversies about steroids. Hulk Hogan infamously said that he did not take steroids, which everyone knows was a lie. He absolutely took steroids, and he's admitted to it later. Not to completely cover for him or protect him, I see why he lied. Steroids, they were coming down like crazy. The feds were coming down like crazy. They were putting, they went after Vince McMahon infamously. And, Hulk Hogan backed Vince McMahon in the steroid trial. There was reports that Vince McMahon was mad at Hulk Hogan during the testimony, even though Hogan was incredibly pro-Vince. I think Vince was just mad that Hogan went to WCW. That was probably the real reason. But Hogan backed Vince, man. He stood by him. The steroid trial, Hogan had issues. He thought maybe they could come after him. And taking steroids in those days, even though it's wrestling, everyone knows wrestling's not real. It's predetermined, it's scripted. Everyone knows that. I'm not saying the F word. The issue is, he doesn't know the ramifications. So I get why he wanted to protect himself. He wanted to protect the charities, the Hulk Hogan brand, his good image. I can see why he did lie, but everyone knows he did it. And when you go past the steroid trial, the big issue many wrestlers had was the backstage politics. And yeah, did Hulk Hogan play politics, protect his spot, protect his position? Yeah, but you want to know something else? Hulk Hogan had all this power, he had all this influence because he drew more people to wrestling events than anyone else in history. He is the biggest draw in the history of the professional wrestling business. He is the biggest star in the history of the professional wrestling business. He was a household name. No one else can say that. When he was in WCW in the locker room, no one else could say that. His success was second to none. The only guy who drew as much as him, or perhaps you can say times, maybe even more for some weeks, was Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it was a short period of time. Hogan had a lot more longevity. That's the big difference between the two. When you're so successful for a company, you mean so much to WWF, and people are upset he didn't put over Bret Hart at the end. I wish he did do that at SummerSlam 93, I believe. That's when it probably should have been. When I think he left after King of the Ring. Yeah. When you're so valuable to a company, why is it wrong for him to protect his own self? Is that wrong? I know you can say he's not giving back to the business. You can criticize him for that, but look what he's done for it. Look how much he meant to it. And then you look at WCW. Okay. WCW was doing nothing business-wise before Hulk Hogan. In the early 90s, they had nothing. They were a dead company. He comes in, and when he's still doing the red and yellow, yeah, it's stale at first. And then when he does the NWO, he goes bad. Their business skyrockets. They destroyed WWF in the ratings like 83 weeks in a row. For that a million times. But they beat WWF. They beat Monday Night Raw. They were huge. Everyone was talking about WCW. The NWO was the coolest thing ever. Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hogan, I should say, was the biggest heel in wrestling. Look how much he meant to WCW's business. So when you say, well, he's playing backstage politics, yeah, he's protecting his spot, but he gains that power in that position because of how successful he is. So you can be upset with him. Do I wish Sting would have just been Hogan clean? There would be no fast count at Starrcade 97. Yes, I do. But are you going to give him credit at least for putting over Bill Goldberg in 98 at the Georgia Dome on Nitro? Put him over cleanly. So we have to credit him for that. Yes, Starrcade 97 should have been handled differently. Just know how much Hogan meant to WCW, meant to their business. So yeah, the politics, can criticize him, and then we can talk about Bash at the Beach 2000. He wouldn't lose to Jeff Jarrett, according to Vince Russo. No offense to Jeff Jarrett, but Hogan's just a much bigger star. I don't know if he needed to lose a match like that. And Russo trashing Hogan on that show, and that's how Hogan's exit ended. That's how Hogan basically was done with WCW, I meant to say. I don't think we saw him again after that, so Russo, I have to say, is actually he's been very complimentary towards Hogan. He hasn't been in the past when Hogan was still alive, but since he's passed, Russo's been very complimentary towards him, I have to say. So thank you, Vince Russo, for that. But yeah, Bash at the Beach 2000 was ugly. People can point to that as well. Another thing people can talk about are many of the lies he's told over the years, which is what they are. There was the time he talked about how he was supposed to be the lead singer of Metallica. I believe the actual lead singer denied that in an interview. So, he didn't look good there. There was a time he said he was supposed to be the star of the wrestler ahead of Mickey Rourke. I believe the director denied that. He's talked about how he fought Pride fighters in the 1970s when Pride, I don't think, was formed until the 90s. Pride was around when UFC was around. How is that even possible? Mixed martial arts hadn't begun as a sport until the 90s. So, yeah, he lied. He also said he faced Brock Lesnar after his UFC return in 2012. He faced Brock Lesnar in 2002 during his first run, but saying he faced him, he fought him when he wrestled, I meant to say, in 2012. Hogan said it on the Joe Rogan Experience, and you know why. He wants to impress Joe Rogan. Oh, I wrestled Brock Lesnar. I'm thinking to yourself, Hogan, it's disappointing when he does that. There was the SummerSlam 92 story, which is disappointing as well. I'll give him a pass for this in a way. I think he got it wrong. He's met so many people, so many kids over the years, so many charities. He's granted the second most Make-A-Wishes behind John Cena. The story is, there's a really sad story relating to this. A child in the UK, this was a major story in the UK, in England, but a child was murdered by two teenage boys, and there was controversy surrounding a movie called Child's Play 3, and it was a major story, and one of the pictures that was shown in the media of the kid was him with the Hulk Hogan doll, I believe. So Hogan wrote Hulkster in Heaven in his album that he released, and it was a tribute to the kid. I listened to the song actually shortly before recording this video. Hogan did a lot. He did a lot for charity. I think the SummerSlam 92 story where he was talking to a Make-A-Wish kid, he invited him to SummerSlam in Wembley, and then he went there and the kid wasn't there, and Hogan realized he died. It's very overdramatic, and I don't know if he remembers this or he's getting the event wrong because he never actually wrestled at SummerSlam 92. I don't know if he's getting things wrong or if he forgets things. He's confusing it with another stadium. But, that's definitely used against him. There was some of them also are a little bit harmless. Yeah, he was recruited by the New York Yankees and the Cincinnati Reds to play baseball, but he couldn't do it because of an injury. Yeah, that's definitely a Hogan one. That's definitely like the Metallica one. There was the infamous he wrestled 400 days in a year because of the time zone difference with Japan. He wrestled a lot during a year. A lot of those guys wrestled an insane number of days. Some of them was like 200 days a year. He wrestled a lot. Fully true. 400 times a year. There was the time when he said Elvis Presley was a fan of him, even though Elvis died in 1977. Hogan didn't begin his career in 1977, and he was the Super Destroyer, the Super Crusher, whatever it was. He wasn't Hulk Hogan yet. There was also the time when he said Andre the Giant died after WrestleMania 3. A few months after the match. He didn't die for 6 years. That, again, I can kind of give him a pass for that. He just forgets a lot. You've seen so much. You've had so much experiences, life experiences that Hulk Hogan has had, met so many people. He probably forgot the exact time Andre died. And I don't think it's anything where he's saying, oh, Andre couldn't handle the body slam, but he died. I think it just means, well, Andre died a short time after, and, it was 6 years. He shorted it to 6 months. Maybe he got it wrong. But those, Jim Cornette, I believe, talked about this. He says that, like, wrestlers in that area were always trained to do that, to make themselves look good, to make themselves more appealing by telling these tall tales. It'll, grow their own legends, if you will. I think that's the issue with Hogan. He also lived in a time without the internet. He assumed you couldn't just look up the things that he was saying, and a lot of times you would find out they weren't true. Hogan didn't need to lie. He's had so much successes. If another wrestler was doing this to make themselves feel better about their career, you can kind of understand. Hogan didn't need to. So I think, Cornette, I don't listen to his show often, but I heard that clip. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's how a lot of wrestlers were trained. It's, you're trying to, you tell the tall tales to advance your own career, to advance your own image, to make yourself more appealing. And, it was kind of never break kayfabe, brother. That's kind of what he was doing. So that's the reason for the lies, I believe. I clearly wish he didn't tell them, and, he didn't need to lie. He's Hulk Hogan, man. And it's there. Do I think that I'm going to dislike him? No. A lot of people, older wrestlers, a lot of people in that generation bullshit. They makes themselves seem, I don't know their words, but a lot of people bullshit. A lot of older people bullshit too. There was the Nick Hogan auto accident that left his friend John Graziano in a vegetative state. And Hogan made some comments on the leaked prison tape with his son Nick that John brought this on himself. He doesn't know why God did this to him. I remember hearing that in around that time, or I think it was 2005, and it was disturbing. It was not something you want to hear at all. 2005, 2007, whenever it was released, around that time. Looking back, this was a father whose son is in prison. He does not know what Nick's future could be. What if John died? Nick would be charged with manslaughter or something, and he could have been left to prison for many years. I believe, looking back, Hulk Hogan was a father. Terry Bollea was a father who was trying to console his son who couldn't handle being in prison. His comments were leaked. They were private. They were inappropriate as well, but I think it came from a place where he's trying to console his son, trying to keep his spirits up. He does not know how bad his son's going to take this. I don't support what he said, no way, but he was consoling his son. We all want to help our family members, no matter what they do. Doesn't excuse what Nick did. Certainly doesn't excuse, what Hogan said, but I think you can see it from that perspective. Yeah. Maybe that's why he did it. Now let's talk about the thing that's haunted him till the day he died. The worst scandal of all. There was the Gawker released the tape. Hogan was having intercourse with Heather Clem, who was the former wife of Bubba the Love Sponge, the same guy who was saying Hogan was dying the last couple months. Unfortunately, it looked like it turns out he was right, that bastard, but Bubba the Love Sponge, no matter what you say, he did have sources to Hogan, and Hogan was, I believe it was arranged where he would sleep with Heather Clem, and they recorded Hulk Hogan without his consent. It's bullshit. Bubba and his wife are scum, but they recorded Hogan without his consent, and they were discussing, Hogan with Heather Clem was discussing his daughter Brooke and her relationship, and at the time she was dating an African American individual, and Hogan did not approve of that. He did not like that guy personally. Also, I don't know if it was just because of racial reasons, but he did not like him, and Hogan made he used the N-word multiple times. That's what happened to describe him, and He said he was a racist and said really terrible things. No one's going to defend what he said. It's really not good. That being said, also, so many people have pointed this out, he was in the worst period of his life in 2007. He was losing money. He was probably going broke. He had a bad divorce settlement that he lost badly to his ex-wife, Linda. He had, on top of that, the lawyer fees, which he had to pay. Linda also had lawyer fees, but Hogan had lawyer fees on top of losing the settlement badly. He had his sons, Nick, and his legal issues due to the incident, the accident that left his friend in a vegetative state. Nick had a lot of legal issues. Hogan does not want to see his son go to jail, so yeah, it's going to cost a lot to get some of the better lawyers. He had countless surgeries, and in the United States, they don't have health care. I mean, it covers part of it, but I mean, a lot of it's out of pocket, some of the surgeries, and he sued over it. So, yeah, it cost him money there. We know that. The reality show fell apart, and then the thing that he was complaining about in the tape was Brooks' music career that he invested a whole bunch in. You know, the reason Hogan Knows Best, that reality show happened, was to promote Brooks' music career, and it went nowhere. It flopped. So he lost a lot of money. As I said, he didn't like the person she was dating, and there was a time, this is true, Hulk Hogan considered suicide. He was that depressed, and around this time when he made those comments, it's the worst period of his life, and it was Layla Ali, who was the daughter of Muhammad Ali. She was a boxer as well. She talked to him, and she did an interview recently, and she said it was something like divine intervention. They worked on the set of American Gladiators, and Hogan credits her with saving his life. She certainly prolonged it for about 20 years, it seems like, because Hogan was really down at that time when he made those comments. Hulk Hogan cried on Good Morning America, asking for forgiveness. You can watch an interview with Booker T. He goes in depth about some of the comments. If you're looking for him to acknowledge it and apologize, that's the closest you'll ever get. You should watch it. I'd recommend watching it for people. I mean, people who hate him, they're just not gonna change their mind. But people looking for him to say something more in depth about it, you should watch the interview. Wrestling sites don't cover the interview because it doesn't fit their narrative. They hate Hulk Hogan and they don't want you to like him. They hate him also not just for the comments. They hate what he represents. Him as a wrestler, he's not their kind of wrestler, so they choose not to cover it. He's made several apologies regarding the racial slurs from the 2007 leaked tape. He addressed it publicly after it first leaked in 2015. He expressed regret, and he stated that his language was unacceptable. The man apologized. I'm sorry. I know it might hurt a lot of people. The man apologized. Don't make it like he doesn't care. He never walked it back. He did, and there's people who are just never going to accept it. When you live in the public eye, sometimes you're held under the microscope, and when you fuck up, it only gets amplified. If you don't want to consider all the circumstances regarding it, the period in his life, how down he was, then I don't know what to say to you. You just don't like the guy. But I brought that up. Now, a lot of people say Hulk Hogan as a character was great. He was huge for the wrestling business, but Terry Bollea was a terrible person. Has he said bad things? Of course. Let's look, and we've gone through everything, the lies he's told, the maybe the politics you think he played a lot of times. Let's look at all the good things he's done. There was a video released on X that showed him praying with a child who had cancer, and his mother was with him, and it was during an autograph session. Hogan set them aside to pray for him and keep the kid's spirit up. Show me that's a bad person. I'm sorry. That's not a bad person. That's someone who's made mistakes, yes, but that's a caring person. There's also one video that I believe W even posted this during their tribute to him, when he's like making a little kid's day. The kid was like cosplaying as Hogan. He ripped his shirt like Hogan. I think Hogan even had him sign an autograph for him. Hulk Hogan has granted the second most Make-A-Wishes, only behind John Cena. Only John Cena has granted more. Hogan's been involved for 40 years. There were kids who wanted to meet Hulk Hogan because he was their hero, who were dying. He's done incredible work with 50 Leagues Foundation that specializes in amputees. It's a charity for them. Boys and Girls Club of America, which is based in Tampa, his hometown. There's numerous other charitable contributions. You can look this up on AI. It'll give you a whole list of all the charities he's done. So when you want to say there's bad things that he's said or done, but why aren't you focusing on the positives? Why can't you talk about the good things? Who are you to judge him as a person and say he's a bad guy when you don't want to look at all the positive, all the good, all the people he's helped, all the people in need he's helped? You don't want to consider that. I find that interesting. Let me just say this. Fuck everyone who celebrated his death. If you're on Twitter, you're posting memes, you're trying to be clever, you're trying to be snarky, you're posting emojis like you don't care, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. If you want to stay silent, you don't feel like talking, you feel like this man's very polarizing, fine. Just be quiet. That's how you feel. Okay. To those who celebrated him, who mocked at his death, who were gloating about this, go fuck yourselves. Fuck you. I hate you. You disgust me. I hate being a wrestling fan. I hate knowing I'm a wrestling fan and that you're a fan as well. I hate being in the same fucking tent with you. Go to hell. Screw you. That's what I think. So, I've told you what I think. See Perfect? No one was. Yeah, he did a lot of good. Can't discredit that. Same way, no one's painting him as a saint. He clearly wasn't. I don't think people who are really defending him are claiming that he's, a saint or anything like that. I think people like me are saying that, it's unfair to judge him as just an awful guy. I don't see it like that. And you have to look at the good and the bad. So he was a person, he was flawed, of course, but to say that he is the worst guy in wrestling, that we can't celebrate him, we can't look at Hulk Hogan, all his accomplishments because of stuff that he said or things he's done, you think he's done, I think it's unfair. I've said my piece on that. So don't ever belittle his accomplishments in the wrestling business, even if you just really don't like him. Don't belittle his accomplishments. You're making yourself look like a fool. Here's another thing I have to say. I'm disappointed with all the wrestlers who remained silent, particularly the current wrestlers. I don't like that. I don't know if they've said their condolences in private, but some of them could have at least posted a memorial graphic, a picture of Hulk Hogan, R.I.P. Hulkster, something like that. I think there's a lot of wrestlers who don't like him, and they're staying silent because of that. And I think a lot of them have shown their faces, and I'm disappointed. I don't like where wrestling's headed in that regard. I don't like that a lot of fans seem to share that, and a lot of wrestlers seem to share the same viewpoint with some of the fans. I'm not talking about the people who are celebrating his death, anything like that, but it seems like a lot of wrestlers now share some of the opinions that some of the fans have, that you can't credit him, you can't make a post about him, say anything positive. Also, some of them are just cowards, and they don't want to end up like Chelsea Green. And I've talked about that. I talked about that during the SmackDown review. If there was a whole bunch of other wrestlers saying positive things, they couldn't come at you like that. You all have to say good things about him, unless you don't want to. I think it was cowardly. That's part of it. The tribute on SmackDown really wasn't enough. It should have been so much more. I know it's morbid, but I feel like I meant to say I know it's morbid, but I feel like if he died like in 2005, there would have been like 2 weeks of tribute shows to him, because that's really before a lot of the major controversies happened. And it would have been like for wrestling what Elvis died, what would amount to rock and roll when Elvis died. It would have been just all these tributes to him. But yeah, things. He died in 2025, and as I said, I just think it's sad how he went out. I wanted to mention a lot of the tributes before I end this video. Rock's tribute was very emotional. I thought that was the best one, to be honest. It was really well thought out. It was well produced. Of course, it's The Rock, so he's going to have people produce it for him, but I thought it was great. And it was during that WrestleMania 18 match, and I watched it. I thought it was wonderful. It reminded me of being a kid and watching that match and how much I loved it and how I still remember it to this day. I remember exactly where I was. So I want to thank you, Dwayne, for that tribute. Ric Flair, I mentioned him. He was on TMZ. He was quick to talk about it. I feel for him. He was very emotional. Charlotte Flair for a very touching tribute. Talking about how Hulk Hogan was there for her when her father was dying in 2017, and he was by his bedside and he prayed with Ric Flair as Flair was unconscious, as Flair could have died. Hogan was there. A lot of people weren't there, but Hogan was. Ted DiBiase he posted a very nice tribute. He also appeared on SmackDown to show his respects for Hulk Hogan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was on SmackDown as well. B. Brian Blair. Hope I don't miss anyone, but so many legends. Sergeant Slaughter we saw on SmackDown as well. Hope I don't forget anyone that was also there. Jimmy Hart, Jerry Briscoe, I believe he was also there. But tributes, all of them were classy. Some of the other ones that I also wanted to mention were Sting posted a good tribute to Hulk Hogan. John Cena posted something on Instagram. Stone Cold Steve Austin posted on Instagram, and I also noticed Austin was liking a lot of tributes to Hogan. I just saw that a lot of WWE posted tributes. Austin was one of the first guys always to like them, so he's definitely paid his respect. Stone Cold has. Triple H posted a very nice tribute to Hogan on X. And also he was talking on SmackDown. Shawn Michaels as well. He posted a tribute. The Undertaker posted a good tribute on X as well. Kane, he posted a tribute, and he did an interview on Hulk Hogan, even as he's the mayor. He talked about how much Hogan was influential. There was Edge. He posted a nice tribute on Instagram, and I know Hogan was his childhood hero. I'm sure he loved when he got to team with Hogan that first time in 02 or 03, I believe. Mick Foley, he did an interview, really praised Hogan as well. There was Chris Jericho. He wrote something nice on X. Jake the Snake Roberts as well. Kevin Nash. He talked about how he lost another brother, and he's the only guy left in the NWO. That's sad. Of the three original members, Kurt Angle wrote something. RVD, The Miz, Maurice, Matt Hardy, Taz, Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks. Tony Schiavone talked about Hulk Hogan on the AEW show. He did a good tribute to him. Roddy Piper's family, I saw posted something on X. Tony Schiavone, sorry, I already mentioned Tony Schiavone. Paul Orndorff's family, who runs his X account, also posted something. Eric Bischoff, of course, did that podcast with Conrad. He's posted numerous tributes. I'm sure he's taking it hard. I know B. Brian Blair and Jimmy Hart, who I mentioned earlier. Jimmy Hart, of course. He's his real-life manager. They were really close to him. And, of course, Vince McMahon, who posted something. So I wanted to mention everyone who did. Hope I didn't miss anyone, but I'm sure I missed some wrestlers. But so many posted good things. You know, when I talk about Vince, Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon are forever going to be synonymous with the WWE. Synonymous with the WWE, however you pronounce it. You can never take those two away. They're going to be there forever. Their influence, their impact. That company is not the same. It is completely different without them. They meant everything. So it's really still, it's hard to process. He's gone. As I mentioned, I wanted to post this just to talk about his legacy, and I think I've said my piece on it. So I guess this is it for Hulk Hogan. It's a little shocking that he died. really, yeah, really hard to process. But it's just because he's such a figure. Hogan, man, such a figure. So, R.I.P. Terry Bollea. To Hulk, we will miss you, brother.